Thank you. Good evening, good morning, distinguished friends, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Erzhan Kazykhan. I'm Special Representative of the President for International Cooperation. It is a great honor and privilege for me to address you at the Women's Economic Empowerment Forum 2021. The session we are hosting today is focused on women empowerment. To begin with, I would like to introduce our speakers, panelists, and special guests. Dr. Kairat Kelimbetov, Chairman of the Agency for Strategic Planning and Reforms, Governor of the Astana International Financial Center. Natalia Gherman, Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Central Asia, Head of the United Nations Regional Center for Preventive Diplomacy for Central Asia. Katrina Fotovat, Senior Official of the Secretary's Office of Global Women's Issues, U.S. Department of State. Ayanat Ksenbai, Humanitarian, and the founder of the U.S. Kazakh Women Alliance Foundation. And of course, Zhanar Aitzhanova, Permanent Representative of Kazakhstan to the United Nations and the international organizations in Geneva. Thank you all for being with us today. Let me outline a few house rules. Each speaker and panelist will be given 5 minutes to deliver remarks, and we will be following up with questions and answer session after all presentations are made. Before I give the floor to our speakers, I would like to say a few words on the topic we are discussing today. The report by the McKinsey Global Institute says that if women had equal opportunities with men in the field of business management, then by 2025, global GDP could increase by $28 trillion US. According to the World Bank Index, if women are given equal opportunities to realize their full potential, it will not only bring greater justice to the world, but also increase overall well-being. Kazakhstan puts women's empowerment at the top of its international and domestic policy. President of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, attaches great importance to gender-oriented strategy in his reform agenda. Yesterday, President Tokayev spoke at a virtual Generation Equality Forum organized by UN Women. In his speech, President stressed that for 30 years of independence, Kazakhstan pursued progressive women-oriented policies. We have established a robust legal framework topped by the concept of family and gender policy until 2030. Last month, President signed a decree on further human rights measures with gender equality as one of its major focus areas. It is obvious that the creation of favorable conditions and the expansion of economic opportunities for women can become one of the key drivers for building a competitive economy, including achieving the goal of our country to become one of the 30 most developed countries in the world. Now, coming back to my duties as a moderator, without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Kairat Kelimbetov, Chairman of the Agency for Strategic Planning and Reforms, and the Governor of the Astana International Financial Center. Governor, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Astana International Financial Center, I would like to welcome and thank all speakers and participants for joining us today. This session is a part of the Women's Economic Empowerment Forum, which we are hosting for the first time during the Astana Finance Days. Last year marked the 20th anniversary of the United Nations Security Council landmark resolution on women, peace and security, the first to recognize women's leadership to achieve international peace and security and their contribution to conflict prevention, peacekeeping, conflict resolution, and peace building. Yet today, international community face a new challenge, the COVID-19 pandemic and related crisis. Women play a crucial role in response to the pandemic in all countries, as was highlighted during the opening session of the forum. Women are disproportionately affected, and we have yet to see the true extent to which COVID-19 affected progress made to date to reach gender equality and peaceful and inclusive societies, two of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Women, Peace and Security Agenda has synergies with SDGs and is reflected in social component of SDGs principle. Now, COVID-19 is threatening progress towards reaching SDGs, and there is an additional need to enhance dialogue and concrete actions to accelerate the progress. Last year, Kazakhstan ranked 43rd out of 167 countries in the 2019-2020 Women, Peace and Security Index prepared by Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace and Security. One of the index component measures the parliamentary representation of women as political participation is a crucial aspect. Kazakhstan's timely response was President Tokayev's amendments introducing a mandatory 30% quota for women and youth in the election. The same report noted Kazakhstan leadership in the region by a percentage of women employed. Our policies are in line with the WPS agenda. For instance, in February 2021, President Tokayev announced a restoration of a particular unit to protect women and children from abuse under the Ministry of Internal Affairs, and introduced the specialization of female investigators to review violent crimes against women and children. Just last month, President Tokayev signed a decree on human rights. Our moderator already mentioned about that envisaged the elimination of discrimination against women. Both AIFC and Agency for Strategic Planning and Reforms of the Republic of Kazakhstan recognize the importance of gender policy coherence and that the implementation of WPS agenda is closely linked to women's economic empowerment. Furthermore, the agenda is vital for ensuring regional peace and security. While building back from the COVID pandemic, it is crucial it's crucial not to underestimate the role of women in ensuring equitable and sustainable growth and continue developing new policies to advance women's economic empowerment globally. AIFC initiative on women's economic empowerment, education, and entrepreneurship starts with the two core tracks, education and investment. However, neither are possible without basic economic, healthcare, and social security in place. Our state policies proposed by President Tokayev aim precisely these pillars. Just yesterday, and Ambassador Kazykhanov already mentioned about this, during the Generation Equality Summit, he announced our joining to two coalitions of gender-based violence and economic justice and rights. At the AFC, our longer-term aspiration includes establishment of Women Investment Platform. In all efforts, whether implementation strategic reforms or establishing new partnerships, such as memorandum signed with the US DFC earlier this year, we welcome international cooperation and joint work to reach SDGs and WPS agenda. I wish all of us fruitful and interesting discussion today, and hope this is one of the many steps to ensure a WPS agenda in the region of Central Asia. Thank you very much. I wish all of us success today.
Now I would like to give the floor to Natalia Gherman, a special representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Central Asia, head of the United Nations Regional Center for Preventive Diplomacy for Central Asia, to speak on promotion of women, peace and security in Central Asia. Natalia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Mr. Moderator. Thank you very much, Dr. Kelimbetov, for the opening address. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, excellencies, I am very grateful for the opportunity to address this forum, and I'm truly pleased that the conference devoted to women economic empowerment includes also a session on women, peace and security, for these issues are intrinsically intertwined. And let me start with stating the obvious. Recovery, development, growth, prosperity of our societies are impossible without durable peace, comprehensive security, meaningful and efficient participation of women. To quote the Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai, "You cannot succeed when half of us are held back." And this is why Women, Peace and Security Agenda and the Resolution 1325 are so crucial for overcoming consequences of the pandemic in short term, attaining SDGs and the immediate term, and ultimately making our world better, safer, and more just place in the long-term perspective. And let me proceed on a positive note. Women, Peace and Security Agenda is clearly one of the top priorities of the United Nations as a whole. Nobody today seriously questions the validity of these commitments. The Resolution 1325 has become unassailable, and in the past 20 years, we have seen important advances in terms of implementing of the Women, Peace and Security Agenda, increasing women's participation in security sector institutions, in peace-building processes, making violence against women a global security issue, and the development of a legal and implementation frameworks, such as the national action plans on 1325 that have been developed in many countries and in the Central Asian states as well. We know that conflict prevention and resolution efforts that systematically include women are more likely to generate broad ownership and support. Similarly, efforts that are responsive to the specific needs of women and girls are more likely to contribute to a sustainable peace. And let me, however, concede that despite the fact that the agenda had strong support from governments all over the world, that support has not plugged the persistent implementation gaps. As the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres noted in his 2020 report on implementation of the 1325 resolution, the commitment that is always reflected around the table is not translating into real change around the world. It is not coming fast enough or far enough. Change is coming at a pace that is too slow for the women and girls whose lives depend on it, and for the effectiveness of our efforts to maintain international peace and security, end quote. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past decade, all Central Asian states have made significant progress in advancing women's participation in political and decision-making processes by adopting and implementing policies promoting gender equality. Representation of women in parliaments varies from country to country, averaging 25% across the region. Representation in legislative bodies at the local level stands at 22%. Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan have introduced quotas for representation of women in national parliaments and in local assemblies. All Central Asian states have launched special state programs to support women entrepreneurs, including capacity building activities and provision of grants or low-interest loans. However, in Central Asia, as elsewhere in the world, COVID-19 pandemic threatens to reverse the progress achieved, and it could exacerbate existing inequalities, with particularly negative implications for a situation of vulnerable women, including young women, women from rural areas, and women with special needs. Economic downturn caused by the pandemic has already increased unemployment among women and created additional problems for women entrepreneurs. And there are reports about surge in cases of domestic violence, mounting pressure on women civil society leaders and activists. I am convinced that only jointly, only together, Central Asian states could counter those negative trends, and the cooperation of the Central Asian states amidst the pandemic has been truly exemplary in many areas, and it has contributed to maintenance of peace and security in the region. Despite the pandemic, the Central Asian states have also continued their constructive engagement with neighborly Afghanistan, thereby contributing to the efforts to restore sustainable peace in the country. Regional cooperation and solidarity at all levels, across all boundaries between women politicians, civil society organizations, women entrepreneurs, women community leaders, is also essential for addressing negative implications of the pandemic on the situation of women in general and implementation of women peace and security agenda in particular. To forge this partnership and solidarity is one of the key elements of my own mandate. And as special representative of the UN Secretary General in the region, I have been mandated by the United Nations Security Council to make women, peace and security agenda a priority for the special political mission that I lead in the region and find effective ways to promote its implementation. And we have mainstreamed these issues in all regional activities, including the dialogue on transboundary water management, activities countering violent extremism and terrorism, and Youth Preventive Diplomacy Academy. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I would like to say a few words about the initiative which is particularly dear to my heart and which serves as an example of regional cooperation in promoting the women, peace and security agenda and sustainable development goals in our region. In December 2020, most influential female politicians from all 5 Central Asian states have undertaken to join efforts to pursue a more prominent role for women in decision-making, security, conflict prevention, peace building, and sustainable development across the region. And to this end, with the support of UNRCCA and the UNDP, they created the Central Asian Women Leaders Caucus. And I want to reiterate that it is a unique example of solidarity among women leaders of Central Asia. The platform could become the essential actor, not only in advancing women, peace and security agenda, but in maintaining stability and security in the region as a whole. In June this year alone, the Women Leaders Caucus convened 2 important events. The first one was a business forum dedicated to women economic participation and cooperation. And then there was this roundtable that we have organized on the 29th of June on regional and global cooperation and partnership in implementation of the Women, Peace and Security agenda. Those were very engaging and very constructive discussions resulting in concrete recommendations. And let me give you just a few examples. By providing the women's perspective, the Women Leaders Caucus undertook to contribute to the resolution of protracted border tensions in the Fergana Valley. The Women Leaders Caucus agreed to develop concrete proposals countering negative impact of climate change and degradation of environment, particularly affecting women. Women Leaders Caucus has pledged to continue engaging with and supporting women of Afghanistan, whose situation is becoming more and more precarious. And in this context, Women Leaders Caucus activities could build upon and supplement already existing initiatives in the region. And first and foremost, I would like to stress the Astana Forum and Astana Declaration on empowering women in Afghanistan, adopted at the conference in 2018, and ensuing conferences within the framework of this endeavor. And the initiative to establish the Women Leaders Caucus has been endorsed immediately by the governments of all Central Asian states. It has an enormous potential, and UNRCCA and all other UN agencies pledge to support it. Dear colleagues, the United Nations, all UN member states, the entire humanity has a responsibility to promote women, peace and security agenda. We have come a long way since the adoption of 1325 resolution back in 2000, but we still have a way to go. And we have only managed to get this far because we have acted together. There is a good old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And let that inspire our countries, organizations, and our policies. Well, in conclusion, let me thank again the organizers of the Astana Finance Days for inviting United Nations, for inviting myself to participate in those absolutely useful and timely discussions, and also bring and contribute with the United Nations perspectives and with some of our regional efforts to implementing the goal of empowering women and also implementing the global women, peace and security agenda. Many thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Thank you very much, Ms. Gherman, and for your meaningful contribution. And UN continues to play a central role in reaching SDGs globally, and enjoys full support from your office, enjoys full support from all the countries of Central Asia. And thank you very much for mentioning Astana Declaration, since we are hosting this event today, as well as many other important initiatives in your remarks. Now I would like to give the floor to Katrina Fotovat, Senior Official of the Secretary's Office of Global Women Issues, U.S. Department of State, to speak about initiatives aimed at supporting women and promoting peace and security agenda. Katrina, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It is wonderful to see you, and congratulations on your assignment as Special Representative to the President. First of all, I would like to wish each of you a good evening and extend my congratulations to Dr. Kelimbetov on the success of the Astana Finance Days. Thank you for holding this forum on women's economic empowerment, and thank you for inviting me. I hope to one day be in your beautiful country. I would also like to extend my warm greetings to the other distinguished and very talented panelists. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to gender equity and equality as a strategic and national security and human rights imperative. Here in the United States and around the world, we know that gender equality reduces poverty, increases access to education, improves health, and fosters democracy. President Biden has reaffirmed the United States' commitment to the advancement of gender equality and equity in the United States and around the world. In March, he signed an executive order, which established a new Gender Policy Council, which directly reports to him, to integrate gender as a cornerstone of our domestic and foreign policy, representing one of the highest elevations of gender to date in any U.S. administration. This week, Vice President Harris joined leaders from around the world, to include President Tokayev, at the Generation Equality Forum, where the United States made major policy funding commitments to prevent and respond to all forms of gender-based violence, strengthen women's economic empowerment, and protect and advance sexual and reproductive health and rights. We value our partnership with the government of Kazakhstan and its commitment to gender equality in Kazakhstan, across the region, and including Afghanistan. This forum is a critical opportunity to double down on this commitment, identifying tools, resources, and potential partnership opportunities to achieve success. This work is critical amidst the ongoing pandemic, which, as research has shown, set back efforts to advance gender equality by an entire generation. As women have faced increased rates of gender-based violence, disrupted access to health services and education, disproportionate job loss and economic insecurity, and additional caregiving responsibilities. We know that women's economic empowerment is critical precondition for peace and sustained security that bolsters women's capacity to engage as leaders in their society. That is why the United States invests in opportunities for women. For example, through the department's Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, the AA program. We are partnering with Freeport McMoran Foundation and Arizona State University to provide an online entrepreneurial platform for women around the world. As a result, women can access innovative business education, localized context, networks, and mentors to support the development and scaling of their businesses. This training has unleashed all participants' capacity to access financial services, to launch and scale their businesses. We are pleased to partner with the government of Kazakhstan to bring this program to Kazakh women entrepreneurs this year, an opportunity to foster in collaboration around a shared priority for the Astana International Financial Center in Kazakhstan and the region. We support an array of innovative public-private partnerships and dialogues to enable women-owned businesses to flourish. For example, through the Women and Girls Empowered program launched by Secretary of State Blinken during the C5+1 ministerial this past March, we will work with champions in civil society and the private sector across Central Asia to develop women's national business agendas. The effort convenes a diverse coalition of stakeholders from across the region to identify barriers to women's economic participation, offers recommendations for reform, and advocates for those recommendations to governments. We look forward to working with Kazakhstan and other regional governments to advance priorities identified by women-owned businesses across the region through the WAGE program. Promoting economic security and protection is only one facet of a multidimensional approach to help accelerate peace and security by elevating the unique role of women and girls in ending conflict. Building on successive years of U.S. leadership on women, peace, and security, or WPS, in 2017, the United States became the first country to enact a comprehensive legislation on WPS, which resulted in the development of our strategy, where we are committed to achieving 3 objectives. 1, that women are more prepared and increasingly able to participate in efforts that promote stable and lasting peace. 2, that women and girls are safer, better protected, and have equal access to government and private assistance programs. And 3, that the United States and partner governments have improved institutionalization and capacity to ensure WPS efforts are sustainable and long-lasting. This week, as a part of our Generation Equality Forum, the United States signed into the Compact on Women, Peace and Security and Humanitarian Action with UN Women, and will continue our robust implementation of this agenda. We know that women's meaningful participation is critical to peace and stability. A study by UN Women found that peace agreements are 35% more likely to last 15 years or more if women are involved in negotiations. And in the region, we are committed to empowering women and girls in Afghanistan to ensure women's voices are heard throughout the peace process and to support the gains they have achieved in the last 20 years. We are advocating for women's meaningful participation in peace negotiations and are assisting women to join the workforce and expand access to quality education, healthcare, including services for survivors of gender-based violence for women and girls. This also includes efforts to strengthen economic and educational linkages for Afghan women in the region, especially people-to-people connections. We know that in order for Afghanistan to achieve and maintain stability and peace, women and girls need to be empowered, enabled, and above all, have a seat at the table in determining their country's future. I would once again like to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Kelimbetov, for your leadership on advancing women's economic empowerment during the Astana Finance Days conference. And I look forward to hearing from other presenters on this critical topic. And with that, I will hand the floor back to you, Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fotovat, and thank you for your kind words addressed to me, and thank you for your informative presentation. And we hope to see you soon in Kazakhstan and in the region. I would like now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Ayanat Ksenbai, humanitarian and the founder of US Kazakh Women Alliance Foundation, to brief us about the activities of the foundation. Please, Ayanat, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well during this very challenging times. First of all, I'd like to commend Astana International Financial Center for launching this vital platform of women's economic empowerment, and thank Astana International Financial Center and the government of Kazakhstan for having me on this distinguished panel today. As a woman and a mother of 3 young children, for me personally, there is nothing more important than economic empowerment of women. COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated that the economic prosperity, security, and public health is equally important to all of us, rich or poor, regardless of ethnicity or race. And the only way we can overcome crisis is by empowering each other, especially the underprivileged citizens of the world. All of the above motivated me to establish the US-Kazakhstan Women's Alliance Foundation and do my part to bridge the divide between privileged and underprivileged by building a bridge of Women's Alliance for sharing knowledge, cultures, and commerce between USA, Kazakhstan, and the Central Asian region. As a young woman, I was lucky to be discovered on the streets of my hometown, Almaty, by a fantastic Kazakh film director, Satыбалдин Arembetov, to play a role of young Leila from a remote Kazakh village, whose health was deeply affected by the Soviet nuclear testing. Unfortunately, Leila's sad but powerful story of despair is similar to so many stories of young women in the rural Kazakhstan. So our foundation is committed to change the trend by providing them with employment and economic opportunities, which my character Leila was deprived from. In fact, to harness hopes and dreams of young women like Leila, we established Leila's Prayers Award for economic assistance. Today, I'd like to briefly share the mission of our foundation with everyone watching this important event and welcome you to join our noble cause. The mission of the foundation is to create opportunities of sustainable employment for underprivileged women and girls in Kazakhstan and Central Asia by providing them with educational and training programs for development of professional skills in a number of industries, such as production and manufacturing of consumer products, apparel and accessories, new technologies, and others. By providing underprivileged women and girls with business and employment opportunities with fair and equal pay, USKWA hopes to help them unlock their economic freedom, financial independence, enjoy dignity of work, and own their future. USKWA plans to provide sustainable employment opportunities through encouraging large US manufacturing and retail sectors to engage local women-owned and operated businesses as they look to outsource and diversify their manufacturing and production and increase variety of their products and services. USKWA plans to work with the local governments to secure reliable and free online communications for underprivileged women to access programs designed by USKWA in cooperation with our experts from different industries in the United States. Every year, USKWA will appoint the Noble Cause ambassadors, both influential women and men, to champion our cause by promoting and advocating for USK's mission. We're keen on creating sales opportunities in the US retail sector for women of the region, specifically in the apparel industry, by engaging services of the local female makers of ethnic clothing, footwear, bags, accessories, and other unique ethnic items. USKWA will offer annual grants of $30,000 for local female makers of ethnic products, later to be sold in the US, where local makers will enjoy 20% royalties from the sales revenues. USKWA will donate smartphones, tablets, and desktops, and will work with local mobile carriers to deliver connectivity to women in rural and remote areas. Our foundation will also work closely with local banks to provide underprivileged women with access to vitally important digital banking. In cooperation with these strategic partners from the music, fashion, and entertainment industries, we will organize cultural events to discover talent in the ethnic clothing, music, and dance culture, and to promote them in the United States. Our foundation's plans are bold and ambitious because the challenges ahead of us are paramount. So we hope that we can count on strong support and cooperation from both the United States and Kazakhstan to empower the underprivileged women and watch them rise from the shadows of poverty and despair to security and economic prosperity. And with that, I want to thank you all for your time and congratulate Astana International Financial Center on this immensely important initiative for Kazakhstan and for every woman and man around the world.
Thank you, Ayanat, for your important remarks. Now, with your permission, I would like to move to the question and answer session. We are on schedule, but we have some time for questions. And my first question will be to Natalia Gherman. Natalia, you've been traveling around the region, and you know that Central Asia has many challenges, and the old challenges, emerging challenges. But following up to your remarks, could you share us how women leadership at all levels has a potential to contribute to regional connectivity and regional stability? Please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, dear Mr. Ambassador, dear moderator. And indeed, it has been an enormous reward and pleasure to see, particularly in the last couple of years, the growing activism and awareness of women of Central Asia manifested at all levels. I have been traveling extensively in all 5 countries of the region, and I also undertook special missions to the Fergana Valley, which, as we know, is still experiencing a number of challenges. And particularly in that particular part of Central Asia, I have seen women organizing themselves in informal networks and organizations. Well, first and foremost, manifesting their natural peace-building activities. And we have seen that the first manifestations of those activities appeared some 10, maybe 11 years ago, after the well-known Osh events in the Fergana Valley. And since then, of course, we've been trying to support those absolutely natural networks that appeared between women of different ethnic and religious origin, living in the countries of Central Asia that have been enormously successful. So the 1325 national action plans that all countries of the region have been developing were building in particular on the initiatives and recommendations of those very brave and very active women. I managed to conduct a number of meetings with them here and learn from them. We have also organized ourselves in the roundtable discussions, and as a result of those roundtable discussions, we were able to provide recommendations to the leaders of Central Asian states, to the presidents of the Central Asian countries. I think that these initiatives that came from the women themselves were absolutely instrumental in helping to formulate the national policies of the Central Asian countries on the women empowerment and women participation, and also gender equality. And I am also happy to reiterate today that these national policies made their way into the formulation of the regional policy in Central Asia on gender equality and women participation. And let me also mention, of course, that the consultative meetings of the Central Asian heads of states, the presidents of Central Asia, they also played a very important role. And let us not forget that after a long pause, after a long interval, the consultative meeting of the Central Asian presidents took place in Kazakhstan in 2018. And then the second one was conducted in Uzbekistan in November 2019. And one of the important references in the final communique of the last consultative meeting of the presidents was dedicated in particular to the necessity of sound policies at the national level, promoting women participation, and also necessity to formulate together the regional policy on that important issue. There was also, dear colleagues, an important reference in that last communique of the leaders on the importance of developing a regional youth policy in Central Asia. These were two important indications for the national governments in the very first place, but also they were important for us, international partners of Central Asian countries, where we undertook together with the governments of the region to develop a regional policy helping to promote the voices of youth. I mentioned in my statement that we are now supporting the very functional Preventive Diplomacy Academy for young people from all 5 Central Asian states and Afghanistan. And as I said, we are also very much supporting important initiatives of the Central Asian countries on equality and women participation. And frankly, the logic was very simple, that after hearing the voices of women, fantastic women at the grassroots level, everywhere in the region, including in the Fergana Valley, we thought that it might well be the right time to also help women in leadership positions, women in parliament, women in governments in Central Asia to have their own network, and also help the leaders of the countries better formulate the national and the regional policies on women, including on women, peace and security. And that was the sense of supporting the Women Leaders Caucus, which is now a very active and functional network of dialogue between those ladies, leaders. And the idea was also that we cannot underestimate the influence of the women leaders, politicians in each of the Central Asian states, and also their capacity to cascade down within their own countries that important message of support, partnership and solidarity. And now that it functions not only from down up, but also up from up downwards, I think that we are promoting and we are supporting a very consolidated approach in each of the Central Asian countries. And also it is easier to unite as a region and present the women regional policy in Central Asia to other platforms, to other women coalitions all around the world. This is exactly what we have undertook to do at our latest event on the 29th of June. And I'm absolutely convinced that the voice of Central Asian women that is now organized and united in the framework of the Caucus is heard, is understood, and we very much hope to contribute to the global efforts of women empowerment and women peace and security agenda. We have heard from our partners who were organizing the recent Paris event on the Humanitarian Compact of Women, Peace and Security. And as the Women Leaders Caucus in the region, of course, there was the initiative to join it on behalf of the region. And we have also heard recently from the Global Alliance of Regional Women's Mediators. And we also understood that as other regions are already well organized, and we have now the Nordic Women Mediators Network, we have the Latin American, the African Women Mediators, Even South Asian women have organized themselves in a mediators network. I believe it is also high time that the women of Central Asia and Afghanistan also organize themselves in a regional mediators network in order to contribute to this global alliance of regional networks. This is something that we have already discussed as well, and this is what the delegates, the ladies from all 5 Central Asian states and Afghanistan proposed, and I'm absolutely sure that we will be able to implement it very soon. So to sum up, I would probably say that the awareness, the activism, and the professional and very dedicated committal approach of Central Asian women at all levels in their respective countries and at the regional level is now taking concrete, very clear shape and very clear agenda. And for the United Nations in the region, of course, an important task will continue to be supporting the initiatives of those women, helping them so that their voice is heard through the global alliances and platforms already supported by UN, also through the General Assembly of the United Nations. And I would also be very happy to brief the United Nations Security Council in July about the initiatives of the Central Asian women and about their very clear ideas on how they could enhance and contribute to these very important global processes. So that's how I see the process going on forward, and that's how I am happy to pledge absolutely continuous enhanced United Nations support to those important processes developing. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you. And I would very much hope that we will be able to work together to convene another women's forum in Central Asia, given the pandemic, of course, pandemic situation, similar to what we did in September 2018. Now I have a great honor and privilege to pass the floor to Her Excellency Zhanar Aitzhanova, Ambassador, Permanent Representative of Kazakhstan to the United Nations and organizations of UN in Geneva. Zhanar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ambassador Kazykhan. It's an honor and pleasure for me to address the final session of the Women's Economic Empowerment Forum. I would like to thank AIFC Governor Dr. Kelimbetov for the invitation to deliver closing remarks for this forum. The topics discussed today strongly resonate with priorities in President Tokayev's agenda. As it's already mentioned by our moderator, Ambassador Kazykhan, yesterday, speaking at Generation Equality Forum, the President announced that Kazakhstan will launch the nationwide study on prevalence of violence against women and girls. The Central Asian Regional Knowledge Platform for sharing state-of-the-art gender empowerment, violence prevention and response expertise will be initiated. Kazakhstan is ready also to financially contribute to the UN and EU-led Spotlight Initiative's regional program for Central Asia and Afghanistan. To support women's empowerment, President Tokayev shared the plans to establish special resource centers throughout the Kazakhstan to expand access to financial and other types of support for women entrepreneurs, and announced his intention to revise the list of women restricted hazardous jobs, as well as enhance social and legal support for women and children. Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to see that Kazakhstan becoming the first country in Central Asia to join the Closing the Gender Gap Accelerator. Dr. Rania Al-Mashad represented Egypt, the first MENA country to join the program, and she emphasized that the accelerator highlights economic commitment to apply required policies and structural reforms to push the gender agenda and empower women. Cooperation at all levels can contribute to the promotion of gender equality, via women entrepreneurship, as shown by EBRD's programs presented by Ms. Harjitai during the second session on women in finance. EBRD and the government of Kazakhstan have been implementing projects to support women entrepreneurs in Kazakhstan. In particular, the project of EBRD, Women in Business, provides financing through Kazakhstan's commercial bank in the amount of $10 million and advice for women-led micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. Participants of this session underscored the importance of ensuring that women are fully included in the global trade and development of inclusive trade policies at the national levels. In this regard, cooperation between Kazakhstan and the UPS is especially noteworthy. And using this opportunity, I would like to thank Ambassador Kazykhan for his work in launching this project with the UPS. I'm pleased to see that earlier this year, AIFC launched the Women's Economic Empowerment, Education and Entrepreneurship W4E initiative, focusing on education and investments with the understanding of importance of the issues discussed during the panel session. With a view to support women entrepreneurship and provide trade opportunities, Kazakhstan is also closely cooperating with the World Trade Organization and International Trade Center and United Nations Conference for Trade and Development. Kazakhstan, as you may know, is chairing the 12th WTO Ministerial Conference, which will be held at the end of this year in Geneva. And we are known within the organization as a strong supporter of a new WTO agreement on services domestic regulation, which will be one of the main meaningful deliverables at the MC12. The new WTO agreement ensures predictable business climate and provides transparent procedures for trade in services, for global trade in services, and provides equal treatment for women and men in trade in services. Kazakhstan and the International Trade Center has launched the project Ready for Trade in Central Asia with the support of the European Union. This is a 4-year project which supports trade facilitation and development of e-commerce in practical terms. To support women in e-commerce, International Trade Center collaborates with Association of Business Women of Kazakhstan through capacity building programs and trainings. The session on women, peace and security was particularly important for Kazakhstan as we are fully committed to UN guidelines and do as much as we can to implement them on the ground. By joining the UN Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, Kazakhstan affirmed its commitment to respect and protect women's rights. In 2019, Kazakhstan presented the 5th periodic report on implementation of this convention. Recommendations made at the review by peer experts of the committee, as well as by member states related to fighting the various types of gender discrimination, domestic violence, and ensuring equal opportunities were duly noted by the government and reflected in national implementation plans. I believe this work is especially relevant today when we are still recovering from the pandemic and women-led businesses are hit hardest. Speaking specifically of peace and security, I want to highlight the following aspects of Kazakhstan's implementation of the UN Security Council Resolution 1325. First, we implement its requirement of stressing the gender perspective in UN peace support missions by sending our service women to UN peacekeeping missions as military observers and staff officers. Second, we pay attention to the gender perspective in post-conflict processes. Our country implements programs of financial, technical, and humanitarian assistance for the comprehensive recovery of Afghanistan. In 2017, Kazakhstan launched an educational program for Afghan women. And finally, Kazakhstan took unprecedented measures to return Kazakh women and children from conflict zones in Syria and Iraq as part of the Jusan and Rusafa operations. And some returnee women became mentors in psychological rehabilitation centers. They used to be silent wives and daughters when they left for the Middle East, and now they are vocal advocates of rehabilitation and reintegration. This is a vivid example of women empowerment. Kazakhstan is ready to work further with UN member states, international organizations, and private companies and NGOs to promote the issues of gender equality and women empowerment. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Zhanar, for your important statement. Thank you all, the participants, for your participation and your interventions. Since we are exceeding our time that has been assigned for this session, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for being with us and this evening and joining us during this discussion. I hope that it provided participants with important insight and takeaways that will be used for common good to promote this meaningful agenda. I would like once again to wish all of you to stay safe and healthy, and thank you for being with us today. All the best to you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And thank you for our